This person working at Kotaku wrote an article about Sweet Baby Inc. Of course, I spoke to the team at Sweet Baby and infiltrated the Discord group, rallying against them to try to paint a cleaner picture of what the fuck is going on. So by infiltrated, what they're really trying to say is that she joined the Discord group. So Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what some gamers think it does. No, one company isn't forcing diversity into all of your favorite games. This is the person here who wrote the article. Does the article mention anything about the Sweet Baby Inc. CEO being a full-blown racist? Because I have a feeling this article doesn't mention it. And then they say this: hi, you can't be racist against white people. Thanks for tuning in. Nobody thinks this is true. No real people think this is true. This is something that only morons think. It doesn't matter how much that you repeat the message. It's very obvious that it's not true. Yeah, they do? Oh, yeah, of course they do. Well, unless it's somebody being racist against them, at which point they'll probably come up with an excuse of why it's actually not okay after all. People like that are a plague in gaming. Well, they're a plague, period. And I'm really glad to see everybody is shitting on her for this, because this is basically a person who is making, what do you call it? They're making light of people that are being racist. Obviously, you can be racist against white people. The only people who don't think that's true are people who are racist. That's all there is to it. There's literally no other way to look at it. This company is just simply a symptom of a problem. It's not like this company is forcing this stuff into the games. The companies are willfully inviting this company in to force it even more. The companies are the ones that are agreeing with them. The companies are the ones paying Sweet Baby. So if you're mad at these people at this company, I totally understand it. You have every right to be upset about it. But the reality is that this is not one of the four horsemen here. Like, the reality is that this is a systemic thing that's happening all across gaming. And if Sweet Baby Inc. went, you know, they decided to close the business tomorrow, this problem wouldn't go away. Because it's systemic. And so the thing is that she's right. And if you go through, let me go back and see. So she joined the group to encourage people to avoid these games because the group had deemed SBI was pushing a woke agenda by working towards greater diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, that's basically what people think. Yeah, it's about that. And let's see here. A 2023 Kiwi... the Steam group now has over 100,000 followers in its own Discord, boasts nearly 2,000 members, but its ire against Sweet Baby Inc. and its diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives in general isn't new. October 2023, Kiwi Farms posts a similar sentiment. So what they're doing right here is, so Kiwi Farms is like just basically a, you know, like it's a lolcow website where they just like have different threads about different content creators, etc. And they don't like different people. So what she's trying to do here is that she's trying to compare them to a group that is already seen in a negative light by, and then by extension of that, make them look like they are also those same people. Because there are a lot of people that have negative feelings about companies like Sweet Baby Inc., but why is it that they compared her explicitly to Kiwi Farms? Well, it's very simple. It's because that's the one that people that watch and read these articles will think, oh, it's like Kiwi Farms, that means it's bad. You see what I'm saying? The conversation around Sweet Baby Inc. has ignited a fundamentally misinformed Gamergate firestorm as employees have faced rampant harassment as a direct result. Disagreement is not harassment. Whenever you have a company that the existence of the company is in direct service of pushing an agenda, and people say, I don't want your agenda, you're not being harassed. You're being disagreed with. Nobody supports actual harassment. But whenever people are disagreeing and saying you're full of shit, get the fuck out of video games, that's not harassment. That's people disagreeing with what you're doing. I don't think anybody supports genuine harassment. Downvotes or hate. Yeah, you're being rejected. People don't agree with that. Industry figures have had to deny allegations that SBI comes in and completely changes their games. And this is also I think this is kind of a red herring. I think the entire Sweet Baby thing is a red herring in itself. Because as I said before, this is a systemic problem in video games in general. This has nothing to do, like they are simply a symptom of the disease. So if they get removed and nobody uses them anymore, they go out of business, this problem will not go away and nothing will change. You see what I'm saying? I spoke with several employees to learn what the company actually does and how the misunderstanding of its role in the industry highlights a far broader problem. What do bad actors think companies like Sweet Baby do? Suicide Squad falling short of expectations, directly responsible for those failures, not the studios that employed them in the first place, because the content Sweet Baby allegedly forces into the games. Yeah, let's see here. It's absolutely not true. Wouldn't be portrayed as a white woman. It's not true. Yeah, and I think that this is absolutely true. The problem is not with Sweet Baby. It's with the actual development studios being infested by people that want to use video games as a tool to spread a message that the people that play the games and buy them don't want to hear. That's the real reason. That's the actual problem. Sweet Baby is like a secondary effect of that makes that easier. Sweet Baby is like a force multiplier for this behavior, but it is not where it comes from. It comes from inside these companies, and Sweet Baby is just simply being hired to make that force even more strong and even more powerful. You see what I'm saying? My evidence, a fucking tweet? Well, this I think this is good evidence, right? I mean, this is the person that works at a company and he's saying it's not true. Yeah, there you go. Even games that are widely considered to be successes are not safe from those conspiracy theories. Well, let's be honest, though. Alan Wake 2, I don't think, has made a profit, so it's important to keep in mind. Let's see here. 2K members already infiltrated. So, what is this here? Okay, so this girl apparently got into the... What is this? She got into the Discord group, and almost 2K members, there are already a bunch of infiltrated people here screenshotting everything, sadly. So just keep it cool, brothers. We can't let this server or the Steam group get taken down. That's all I ask. Keep it cool. There's a post from March 4th, which was shared again on March 5th. Several people in the Discord expressed concerns about glowies, a term coined by the far right for those suspected of being federal law enforcement officers and or informants in attempting to infiltrate their online spaces and set up for legal consequences. Yes, that is true. I think that's, yeah, basically, right? Let's see here. All right. I think that in general, like, there's a lot of overlap, but it's not necessarily that. So let's see here. Adds race and identity quotas to everything that they're involved with. Sweet Baby isn't forcing diversity. It's happening naturally. Well, I don't think that it's happening naturally. Because if it was happening naturally, you wouldn't see massive pushback to it. That implies that it's not natural. So I don't think it's happening naturally, but it's happening from the companies themselves. Sweet Baby is not doing it themselves. No one would care if it was natural. Yes, exactly. And so I think that the fact that you're writing this article implies that it's unnatural. And I think that everybody sees that. Let me see here. Any marginalized group can offer up content based on their identity. Is incredibly frustrating for the team and for marginalized industry members at large. People can't imagine what we might do anything else but diversity, equity, inclusion. They can't imagine that we're just talented writers. Well, yeah, the reason why people can't imagine that is because you're not. That's the reason why this is a problem in the first place. That's true, actually. That's probably the only part that is true. People can't imagine that you're a talented writer. Well, if they could, that'd be the only thing they could do. Because they can't see it. They can't imagine the work that I did in Spider-Man was the story work versus adding pride flags, you know? Yeah, sure. Let's see here. Sweet Baby and other industry leaders suggest that this dogged insistence on believing one company is forcibly injecting diversity into games is a side effect on a widespread misunderstanding of how games are actually made. Here, nobody cares how games are made. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares what the process is. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if people are buying a game, they're not happy with the game, then that's the only thing that really matters. Now, whether Sweet Baby is making them do this or not is irrelevant. The end result is that people are getting games that they feel like are heavy-handed in the way that these games promote and spread messaging. They just don't agree with the way that the games are made. They don't like seeing these things in games. They don't like these political statements being made in games. They find it to be, what's the word? Unnatural and forced. That's just the way it is. So if you're unhappy about that, that's fine. You know, you can disagree. That's okay. What messaging? It's inauthentic. Yes, exactly. It's inauthentic. And people don't trust these developers to make a story that's actually good on its own, because there's so much of a focus in Western media of making sure that entertainment media reinforces existing social norms. And I think that's a fundamental problem, and that every single thing in Western entertainment media has to be some sort of allegory to a real life issue. And you can't actually have bad characters in a lot of these stories whenever the characters could have some certain actual real bad traits, like for example being racist or sexist or something like that. So yeah, the people that are writing this article unironically think that you can't be racist against white people, and they have some sort of like, they're basically saying that what these people are saying on their Twitter accounts is okay. So to me, like, whenever I see somebody thinks this is kind of like astrology. Whenever I find out that somebody believes in astrology, I automatically take everything that they say less seriously. Because I realize that, like, I am now dealing with a defective decision maker. This is somebody who is not a logical thinker. They're not a rational person. So anything that they say or do, you just can't trust it anymore. So I think this is the same thing. Like, this is one of those things where if somebody says something like this, I immediately realize, wait a second, oh, it's one of these people. Never mind, let's not take them seriously anymore. Because these people aren't really interested in having a conversation. They're not logical. They don't think rationally. They have dogmatic views on everything. And they're not willing to actually have a conversation. It's ridiculous and immature. Exactly. The sentence invalidated all of their opinions. Yes, it did. And whenever I see a person say stuff like this, I realize that they're just a moron. We should also consider the definition of racism. It's racism typically stipulates from a position of power. You're a boss and you don't like Mexicans, so you don't hire them. Well, that's not the way it works, because if you're found by doing that, you can be sued for discrimination. So, like, that's not really true. Are there people that are racist? Yeah, of course. But if you think that the only people, like, you think there aren't racist Mexicans? Of course there are. Yeah, I mean, what are you talking about? It's just like, again, this type of logic can only exist in an abstract of reality. Because if you actually apply this logic to reality in any sort of a workable way, it immediately falls apart, and you immediately see how completely, how much of a complete double standard this is. And this is kind of like the issue that a lot of these people have, is that all of their logic and all of their philosophy is created in a world that doesn't exist. Because they're talking about this on the internet. These are people that are, you know, like fucking terminal internet users. So they don't even have any friends in real life in a lot of cases. They don't know how to act in real life. Probably in high school they were losers. Nobody liked them. And so now they're on Twitter writing articles telling everybody else how they have to act. What is this? If I go to a channel and call them slurs, is that not racist because they're Chinese? They have power? Oh, if you go to China and call them slurs, is it not racist because they have power? Well, of course it is, right? And this is the thing, right? Is that, again, this is something I think with a lot of types of, like, philosophy that people have, is that the amount of ways that you can make it not make sense is directly related to how good the philosophy is. So the best philosophy is the philosophy that makes sense in every single way. And the worst philosophy is the philosophy that only makes sense theoretically. And I think this is the case. This is theoretical philosophy. Do you think classism first and it leads to racism, or are they interchangeable? I think the U.S. has had a huge problem with racism. It always has. It probably always will, just like every other country does. Like Japan has problems with racism. China does. I'm sure Russia does. I'm sure places in Europe do. Like, I'm sure Africa has racism problems. I'm sure the Middle East does. Everywhere has racism problems because people are racist. Like, there's nothing really unique about American racism that's special about us. The truth is, people do this everywhere. It's not special. Racism never left. Well, to be fair, I think that we've done a lot to get rid of it. And I think that should be... It's weird how people don't take that into consideration of, like, how much work that, like, our cultures put into getting rid of this stuff, too. Is racism a natural thing, though? Yeah, I think it is. I think racism is natural. I think that really it's just people that are exercising some form of own group bias. Own group bias is basically like where you're going to provide preference and, more, you'll be more sympathetic to people that are like you. Like, for example, like me versus like other guys and other guys, women and other women, I don't know, black people and other black people, white people and other white people, people of one religion and people of the same religion. Like, that's just own group bias. So yeah, of course that's what happens, because you think about it evolutionarily, and of course those are the people that evolved because they were the ones that stuck with each other. It's just logically what makes sense. Now, we live in a world where that's not as relevant nowadays, but that doesn't mean that millions of years of evolution just suddenly disappear. Does anyone actually disagree with that take? Well, there are some people that do, and the people that do also probably believe in astrology. So it's not important to consider what their disagreement is, because it's not coming from a logical vehicle. It's coming from a moron. The simplest example of dumb group bias is the console wars between Xbox and PlayStation. Yep, there it is. Well, you and I disagree with most of what you say. I feel like you're just demonizing them. I spoke to people who think like that. A lot of them have friends and were successful in school. At least that's my personal experience. I don't know. I'm sure some of them do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not like, of course, all of them are like that. But at the end of the day, these people are toxic, and I'm glad they get shit on. I think that, in general, you should fight against any type of racism. And I understand that, like, again, people sometimes get mad at me for saying stuff like this, and, you know, or saying other stuff. I want to make it very clear. This is, like, a general, like, viewpoint that I have. I think people should be able to do and say and think what they want. And I am generally against judgmental people trying to push an agenda on anyone else, regardless of what that agenda is, as long as it's not something that's hurting people. So, it doesn't matter whether it's religious rules. I push against religious rules. I think this basically is a religion because it's... I mean, honestly, like, the Bible is more logical than this is. Let's be real. I'd be more likely to believe a burning bush than believe this. It doesn't even... a burning bush makes more sense. It's a cult. Yeah, exactly. And so year 2024, uninhibited racism is kept alive by the anti-racists. Well, I think people are starting to see how ridiculous this is. Apparently, you can't be racist towards white people. Racism is racism. Yes, every normal person thinks this. And so, yeah, these are the people. I just want to let you guys know, these are the people who are defending Sweet Baby. There are people who unironically think that it is good to be racist against white people. There it is. It's sad. It really is. People are tired of being told how to think. Yeah. Absolutely. White isn't a race. Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, what are you talking about? It's the same as black as a race. Is every black person from Africa? No. But people refer to all black people as the same thing. Yeah, of course it is. You're not going to try to, like, fool me with this kind of stuff and try to intellectualize it. We clearly know what you're talking about. Should we be banned for that? Yeah, guys. And this is what I was saying before about how this is intellectualizing common sense. You're not going to do this, okay? Like, most normal, reasonable people see what's happening, and they disagree with it. I mean, I can see where it's come from. It's incredibly dishonest to say it morally correct on white people as a whole, though, same as any other race. Yeah, and I think that and this is the problem, is that even monkeys can perceive unfairness. Monkeys can. You're not going to convince people at large that this obviously unfair thing isn't unfair. It clearly is, and everybody sees it. I'll read a few comments about this, but overall, and the worst part about this is that she's right in a lot of cases, that it's not just this company that's doing it, and people are attributing all of this stuff to this one company. It's not necessarily just them. It is a lot of people doing it. However, the goal that she has is not a good goal. They want a way to silence dissent in any way they can. They do. And that's what they try to do. They try to shut people down, and they don't want these people. What they are the most afraid of more than anything is a free marketplace of ideas. Because the ideas that they have and the values that they hold cannot exist in a free marketplace of ideas. Because they won't survive. No normal person actually thinks this is true. This can only exist inside of a safe space. It's not subject to scrutiny, because if it is, it would no longer exist. Critical thinking is poison for them? In a lot of cases, yeah. Can I give you a valid explanation on why astrology has some grounding? Just a little bit of grounding? No, I'm not interested in that. I don't care about that. If you think it's real, go ahead. I don't want to collectively reduce the IQ of everybody else in the chat any more than I already have. So no, I'm not interested in that. I'm sure that you can come up with some abstract reasoning that I could probably assume, right? Because it's like the time that you were born, it's like certain pivotal moments in your life would happen at different seasons, and the different seasons would impact you in different ways. Yeah, sure, I can see that. But that's clearly not what we're talking about. And that's like you're trying to go from 0% to 1%, and I'm saying it's not at 100. It's not even at 50. Obviously, these people are toxic poison. They should be shit on as much as you possibly can. They do have some elements of what they're saying that are right, but at the end of the day, these people are terrible. They are toxic. They are parasites. And I think in general, I am so glad to see people finally waking up and calling it out. It's disgusting. Thank God.